Welcome. Today we're going to talk about the connection between culture and tourism and how cultural entrepreneurs can collaborate with the tourism sector. Because this is not about becoming something else like a tourism company or activity company. It's about helping you understand the system and your role in it. And this is what this webinar is going to be about, how cultural actors can connect to international tourism. But first, I just want to tell you something about the Arctic Europe Tourism Cluster. The Arctic Europe Tourism Cluster project is the next and stronger step of the cross-border cooperation in Arctic Europe. The project goal is to build a more resilient and more regenerative tourism, to meet rapid changes and future expectations for the benefit of the tourism industry, the local societies, and the visitors in Arctic Europe. The project is funded by Interreg Aurora, Norrbotten Regional Council, the Regional Council of Lapland, Troms and Finnmark's fylkeskommune, Troms Holding, Innovation Norway, and all the participating companies. The project partners are Finnish Lapland Tourist Board, Northern Norway Tourist Board, and the Swedish Lapland Visitors Board. So, with that said, why are we here today, and why do this subject matters? What is happening now is that we are seeing a strong and growing international demand for the Arctic culture. It is actually more and more becoming the reason people travel here. Visitors, they are not just coming for the nature anymore. They are looking for meaning, stories, and people. But culture, it does not automatically reach the visitor. And being a culture bearer is not the same as being a part of the travel distribution system. And that's, I think, is where many cultural businesses get stuck. It can be quite of a struggle entering tourism today. Because what we're seeing now is the shift in tourism. You can say that you go from more of a sightseeing to actually trying to understand the place that the tourists are visiting. And that means they want to hear the stories. They want to connect with the local culture. They want to talk to the local people and put all of this into a context. They want to go from being passive to a more participatory approach. They want to go from product to experience. So when you, as a cultural provider, stand there, you must ask yourself, what can you teach a person who never have been to the Arctic before? It is about giving them that feeling, a memory, or simply just being a part of a performance or a co-creation. You can almost say that there is two ways to present culture, local culture today. One is very passive and one is very active. And the traveler of today, he or she wants to be active, wants to engage. And you can say that you can look at culture, and there is nothing wrong with looking at culture. It can be ever such a life-changing experience. Visiting a museum, listening to someone telling their story, watch someone do their handicraft, and so on. But the traveler of today, they want to participate. They want to be a part of our local Arctic culture. So what you can say is that we are going from watching to doing, because they want to learn something when they are visiting you. They want to participate in your cultural experience. They want to be part of something bigger. They want to be together creating something with you, a memory. They want to get that beautiful memory to take back home, either just as something to think back on, something that they can actually have in their bookshelf as a physical memory of the trip. So I think that they are looking for something that can help them understand where they actually are. But there is a gap. And that gap is not because of lack of value, but because of lack of connection. You can say it like this, that cultural actors, they don't always work with tourism, that we know. But it is also so that tourism doesn't always know how to work with culture. And this is what we are trying to change with this webinar today, giving you as a cultural actor more knowledge on how you can cooperate with tourism and why. You can say that it is almost like two different worlds. The cultural sector, you often focus on expressions, on meaning, the creative process. And you also have a lot of integrity doing all of this. Where the tourism industry, they very often focus on the packaging of an experience. They are talking about target groups. Who wants to buy this product? Who is your customer? They also want to know a lot about the availability of the product in itself. So there is a difference between these two sectors. And it's not always easy to navigate in this quite divided world, but we will give it a try. This is how tourism works. You can call it like the tourism value chain. So you have you here as the local cultural provider. You work with a local partner. It can be a tourism company, it can be a hotel, it can be an activity company. And they, in their turn, they work with an incoming company who works with an international tour operator on different markets. It can be a UK tour operator, it can be a Belgium tour operator, it can be a US tour operator. And they, in their turn, they will sell a package or a product to the guest. Because what we know now is that guests, they do not book individual providers directly. They buy packages that is built by these tour operators or incoming companies, and your experience becomes a component in a much bigger offer. And by understanding this structure, it will help you to also understand what kind of strategic position you can take. And I have some terminology here for you to explain, because I think that this is important going forward in this presentation. When we talk about a local partner, it can be a tourism company, it can be a hotel, it can be an activity provider. They work with an incoming company. That is very often a local company that organizes and delivers the experience, like on the ground. And they cooperate with the tour operator, the international tour operator, who creates and sells the travel package to the end customer. So that is like the touristic value chain, you can say. And when tour operators want to buy something, either if it's from like the tourist company itself or the local activity provider or the incoming company, they need to know a few things. They want to have the structure. They want to know that the product is reliable. They want to know a lot of things around the prices, and they want to know your capacity. That means that they need to know, can this run on time? Can this activity run repeatedly? Will you be able to do this every Thursday? Will you be able to do this every Thursday at 2 o'clock? How many people can you take on? Is it going to be an activity for 4 people, 8 people? Can elderly do it? Can families do it? And so on. And do you have a stable pricing model? And most important, what happens if something goes wrong in this project? I can say that they think more like procurement professionals almost. So when you approach them, you, in your turn, you must think like a supplier. Because what they will need from you is a lot of things. You can say that this is what they will ask for. They will ask for the net price, meaning the price before their margin. So not the public price, but the net price. They want to know about your capacity, minimum and maximum participants, the length of the activity, if there is any equipment needed, is it family friendly, and so on. So there are many other things as well around the capacity of your product. They also want to know about your cancellation policies. They want to know which language you're working with. Is it just your own? Is it English? Is it even one language more? And so on. And very often when you talk about pricing, they also need prices like 1 or even 2 years ahead, because that is the sort of length on when they are building packages towards the end customers. And it's important to know that all of this, it's not about reducing your culture or your cultural product. It's about you trying to fit into their system. But a lot of times it can actually get a bit difficult. And that is because the cultural sector and the tourism, they work a bit differently. The cultural companies, very often small scale business. It's most of the time, it might be only you and you alone. You work in quite flexible ways already now, meaning that you don't have fixed hours and so on. And you also have limited resources for admin. It means both when it comes to time and systems needed, like buying a system, for example. If you want to put it simple, you can almost say it's like tourism loves spreadsheets, culture, not so much. And I must say also that neither of this is right or wrong. It's just different. Many cultural entrepreneurs work in these flexible, creative ways. And the travel trade, they work in structured, long-term cycles. And that is not a quality issue here. It's just a system mismatch. And these mismatches, they can actually sometimes create a bit of a stress. So how do you cooperate with that stress? That is like the key question here. Well, you can go 2 different ways here in order to sort of reduce that stress. You basically have 2 options, I would say. You can do it here, as in A, you can do it yourself. Enter the world of travel trade. That means that you will be the one negotiating contracts, prices, buying the systems, taking all the risk together with the tour operator. It's quite a heavy workload for a one-man company, for example. But then you can also go for option B, collaborate with someone. Collaborate with someone who already has those systems in place. And for many small cultural businesses, option B is the more sustainable one. It's not a weaker one. I would call it a smarter one. And that is why from now on, we will focus on this option B, collaboration with a local tourist company. Here is a concrete example of how it can be done. You have this small ceramic studio in northern Norway. You create an easy 2-hour workshop where the participants learn how to throw local pottery. Then you go and sell it to a local hotel. They, in their turn, they will create a weekend package where your workshop is included among many other activities. And they will sell it to this incoming or tour operator company who puts it out on the market. They will put a price on it and they will sell the full trip, including flights and everything, to a guest somewhere. A tourist buys it. And you can focus on your craft and giving the guest that unforgettable experience. And it's important to say here that collaboration does not mean giving up your integrity. It means defining what is non-negotiable for you, what is your minimum price, and perhaps most important question of them all, what protects your cultural authenticity? Because structure, it will protect your cultural expression. It doesn't weaken it, it will protect it. But then there are some dangers on the way here. And I would say that these are the 5 most common mistakes cultural companies do when they enter this world of tourism. Those mistakes include pricing, flexibility, and we see this all the time. The companies start thinking more like an audience and not as a seller, which they actually are in this case. Very often they are using public pricing instead of the net pricing. So this is very important to remember. Net prices. Even if you work with a tour operator or if you work with a local provider. Then very often underestimating the amount of time that admin actually takes in this. Even though if you have a local partner, it will require some admin from you. And then perhaps sometimes you are even too flexible for the local provider. But the biggest one of them all is trying to do everything alone. That is usually when the burnout starts. You don't have to build the entire system yourself. You just need to find the right partner. So I think it's always easy to sort of do this readiness checklist for a local cultural provider. Before entering discussions with a potential partner, ask yourself these questions. Is my product now really clearly structured? Do I have a clear product? Do I have the right prices? Is my pricing actually built for margins? And do I know my role in all of this? What would be my role and what do I expect from a partner? If you don't have this answer to these questions, that is where you should start this journey. And also, when meeting a potential partner, a potential local partner, don't just present your idea. You should be the one asking a lot of questions here, because that will make you a better seller. That will make you understand what kind of needs they actually have and how they actually work. Because good collaboration in this, it's always about mutual clarity. And you should really feel respected in all of this. You should not feel like you're being absorbed by this local company. So when you meet a potential partner, ask them, what kind of target market do they have? What kind of volume are they aiming for when they are trying to sell your product? How do they price their packages? And what margin do they apply? And how do they handle risk and cancellations? And of course, as always, the important question of how is the cultural integrity protected in all of this? And they should have answer to all of these of your questions. When you start your first collaboration, you need to identify someone who could be your local distribution partner. Start small. Pilot a collaboration with them. Test at small scale first. Learn and then adjust. Evaluate and adjust. Adjust pricing, refine the structure of the product, and so on. And then you can start scaling gradually. Because scaling works best when it grows from something stable, not from chaos. And then I actually only have some final words for you, but these are also important for you to remember. You do not need to enter the jungle alone. The travel industry needs culture. But culture does not need to become tourism. It needs to become a strong, structured, respected partner in this value chain of tourism. So, with that said, I will leave you with a question that you can start think about after this webinar. I will leave you with this reflection. What could be your first step into the world of tourism? Thank you for today. Hope to see you in the world of tourism very soon.